in the Senate in order to pass a bill. We have something called the filibuster. We can talk about that later if there are questions, but in any case, 51 votes is often not enough. And that's a healthy thing, in my opinion, because it requires a consensus between the parties. It means that one party may be the majority, in this case the Democrats, the majority in the Senate, but that's not enough to pass a bill. Democrats need some Republican votes, and that forces Democrats to move to the middle. Some people don't like that, but others think that's a very valuable and unique situation in the Senate. So that's the Senate. The House of Representatives is called the People's House. And we call it the People's House because the House is closer to the people. Members of the House are very proud of that name, the People's House. The senators, members of the House have to be elected every 2 years. And so therefore, by definition, they have to go back to the districts more, they have to talk to their constituents more, and so they are closer to the people. And the House of Representatives has certain responsibilities the Senate does not. For example, no tax bill becomes law unless it starts in the House of Representatives. No tax bill can start in the Senate. The Speaker of the House of Representatives is the third in line to become President of the United States. So there's the President, then there's the Vice President, and then the Speaker of the House. We had, for many years, our Speaker was Nancy Pelosi from California, and just in January, just last month, Kevin McCarthy, who's a Republican, was elected Speaker of the House, and he's our current Speaker. Now there is, as I said before, there is tension between the House and the Senate often, but I don't want to exaggerate it. As I said before, sometimes the two chambers get along very well. I'm trying to read the slide. Let's see. So what are areas of natural tension? Well, there's a rivalry between the House and the Senate, as you can imagine. Each chamber wants to be the first. Each chamber wants to get all the credit and all the attention in the media. So that's one example. There's a particular problem of tension between the House and the Senate right now because the House is under the control, the majority is Republican. And in the Senate, the majority is under the control of the Democrats. So there, by definition, different parties, definitely tension there. In addition, the House and the Senate often have conflicting policy agendas. The Senate, for example, because it's under control of Democrats, will tend to pass more progressive legislation, sort of, or let me put it differently, legislation where there'll be a more active government role. The House, because it's under control of the Republicans, tends to be much more modest in terms of government control. I think the House, for example, is much more focused on cutting spending. Democrats in the Senate like to spend money, honestly. The House representatives, the Republicans, tend to be much more supportive of tax cuts. Democrats are not. Sometimes Democrats like to raise taxes, by contrast. So the different policy agendas. So those are the major differences. Now, there are areas of collaboration. For example, and here's an interesting area of collaboration that might be helpful for you. States, like maybe your counties, for example, if you come from California and you're in the House, it would be natural for you to work with the senators from California because California has certain interests. If you come from Texas and you're a member of the House of Representatives, you'll be working with the senators from Texas because you want to get things done. In fact, we have delegation meetings where the entire delegation of a state, Republicans, Democrats, House and Senate get together. So that's a natural area of collaboration. They may have some areas of legislation that they want to work on together. For example, when I worked at the House Budget Committee, we worked very closely with the Senate Budget Committee. We had to pass a budget. We had to cooperate. So we would talk all of the time. We might engage in oversight of the executive branch, for example. We might be investigating similar things, the House and the Senate. And so therefore, there would be natural areas of collaboration there. So there are a number of areas where members of the House and the Senate can work together, and that does happen a lot. And as I said before, they have to work together because nothing gets done if all they do is fight. So what are some strategies for cooperation and getting along? I would say the number one strategy is communication. The two chambers need to talk to each other a lot. Don't surprise the other chamber. Tell the other chamber, what are you doing? What are you working on? Why are you working on it? And I can tell you from personal experience, we used to have regular meetings, at least every week, where the leadership of the House and the leadership of the Senate would sit down and talk about what's going on in each chamber, what the priorities are, what legislation is moving. So they kept each other in close contact. At the staff level, we would have conversations. I would speak to my colleagues in the Senate several times a day to hear what they're working on. I would tell them what I was working on, we were working on. In addition, we would try to share credit. If we're working on a bill together, we would try to thank and praise the other body for its work because we figured that working together was a much more successful way to achieve things. We would collaborate on policy. And finally, and this is a really important point, each chamber needs to understand the difference from the other chamber. To talk about, for example, the different rules, the different traditions. You know, the Senate works much more slowly. They have much longer debate time. They can talk for days and days and days and days on the same bill. The House of Representatives, there are time constraints. You maybe have an hour or 2 hours to speak on a bill. But senators love to talk, and they 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 talk. And they love to hear each other talk because they think they're so interesting, by the way. I'm not sure that everyone agrees. Everyone here's in the House, right? I don't want to offend anybody here. Okay, let's move on. All right. And another area where there's an area of cooperation is, of course, is the parties. Naturally, for example, especially when the House is the same party as the Senate, then they collaborate, they have to work together, they have to talk together, and they have to unite. And the political parties, by the way, the leadership can help to drive that cooperation. Political parties can act as a resource for chambers to unite. They can help members remain in contact to resolve disagreements. So the party leadership can be very valuable in playing that role in Washington. Now, I mentioned this before. This is a really interesting and important part. What happens when the House passes a bill, for example, let's say a tax bill, and the Senate passes a tax bill? Now, there are differences between the two bills, but the House and the Senate want it to become law. And as I said before, just because you pass a tax bill, it doesn't become law unless the House and the Senate resolve these differences. So the way it's supposed to work is there's a conference committee. Basically, what happens is you have a committee, the House of Representatives names members to that committee, the Senate names members of that committee, they sit down, they negotiate, they argue, they horse trade. Well, we trade, it's an American expression to trade, we can say horse trading. You trade horses. You make deals. I'll give you something here, you give me something there, you give me what I want, I'll give you what you want, or you want 100, we want 20, well, let's compromise at 50 or 60 or whatever the number is. So they find something in the middle. Now, in terms of how the conference works is that the House it's a complicated process, but there are 3 steps in terms of arranging a conference with the Senate. First, the House will disagree to the Senate chamber's bills, and so what happens is the House will pass a bill, the Senate will change the bill, and the House disagrees with the Senate changes, and the House will say, we don't like our changes, and we will we'll insist. So in any case, there will be an agreement for a conference. So let's move to the second slide. The conferees, as I said, are members of the House and the Senate. There are members of the minority party and the majority party, but of course more members of the majority party. That's the conferees. Let's move to the next slide. Okay, the authority of the conferees. Fundamentally, if there is a bill under the rules, the bill by the conferees cannot, it basically, there can be nothing in the final report that has not either been in the House bill or the Senate bill. So in other words, if a House cuts taxes by $100 billion and the Senate by $200 billion, the number has to be somewhere in between. It can't be outside that number of $100 billion. It can't be outside that number of $200 billion. So it's got to be somewhere in the middle. In addition, you can't add new areas. If it's a tax bill, you can't add in the conference a bill dealing with education that's totally unrelated. Okay, let's move to the next slide. Now, the conference has to have at least one public meeting where the entire public is invited. They have the meeting, they have discussions, they have a debate, they do some trading back and forth. And then a lot of what gets done in conferences in private, telephone calls and private meetings and discussions. That's the way we did it at the Budget Committee. So we'd have a conference, but there was a lot of horse trading. Let's go to the next slide. Finally, there'll be a conference report. When there's an agreement, a majority in the House has to support the conference agreement, a majority in the Senate. They will sign the conference report. They'll send it back to the House, send it back to the Senate. The House and Senate pass it, and then they send it to the President. The conference report is very important for judges, because when a bill goes to the courts, the conference report is the document that the judges look at to understand what did Congress really mean when it said this or said that. Sometimes the word's not clear in the law, but the conference report will make it more clear. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Now, what I've explained is the rules, but in fact, it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes there are different processes. There's one process we call ping pong. The House passes a bill, they send it to the Senate changes it, they send it back to the House changes it, they send it back. So it's like a game of ping pong. The ball goes back and forth. Eventually it's the same bill. Sometimes there's just leadership agreements. The Speaker and the Majority Leader sit down and they work it out. And then that's the conference agreement. But that's basically, there are different ways of doing it. Sometimes you have to pass it quickly, and then you don't go through the conference. The conference is a long, time-consuming, elaborate process. So those are how the House and the Senate resolve the differences. That's all the slides I have on this. And as I said, it is a very complicated relationship, but ultimately it has to work to get anything done.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tom Khan, for that insightful presentation. Honorable members, we'll have our discussant, and after that we will link this presentation with the topic number 16 after. Then we can have plenary for the two sessions. Thank you very much. You may take your seat. You will come after the discussant for question and answer. Yes, yes. Okay. Yes. Right. If you don't mind, I hope that will be okay with you. Thank you. Right. Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to the second part of this discussion, which is how the House, the staff of the House of Representatives works with the members. So let me just get my notes here.
And then we take questions immediately after that. Perfect. Yeah. Okay. So you'll take a seat. Okay. I bring the local system. Understand. And then you come back. Okay. And then we proceed.
So should I do this part now? But
no, you do after I do the presentation.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So thank you very much. So we just wanted to agree on that matter. So kindly bring Eric McMenamin on stage. She will be making the presentation on the second topic, member and staff relations, the role of parliamentary staff in facilitating legislature, for the next topic. So kindly, Honorable Soro, you may go on stage as a discussant.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, honorable members, and thank you very much, Mr. Tom, for that presentation. My name is Silvana Zosoro. I'll be taking you through our local system as far as bicameral parliament is concerned. And even as we discussed that, from the onset, I think it's very important for us to appreciate where we've come from as a country in terms of our legislature history. Those who've gone through our history, you'll agree with me that we've come of age. That from the very first Legislative Council, which comprised of 7 members, all of the European origin in the 1906 thereabout, and it was chaired by a governor then. Years down, of course, a very new person that joined into the Legislative Council was nominated by the then governor, is now the famous, that you know, Jivanji, that is in 1925. Then the very first African to sit in the Legislative Council came through in 1944, the Honorable Eliud Mathu. Of course, it proceeded. You know, a year after, there was Ohanga, then there was Odede, then there was Jeremiah Nyaga in 1948, and then there was a formation now of the entire council in 1958, you know, and at that point, of course, they formed now regions all through in 1958, yeah, thereabout. And in 1960, we had I can see you're looking at me, Honorable Chair, my chair. Yes, I'm really giving you a preview of the history as it is, and you get to understand. If you miss a bit of some dates, of course, go back and study yourself very hard. And then we had the formation of districts then, and we had people like Tom Boyer taking charge of Nairobi, you know, and then later it came to a Lancaster, in the Lancaster Conference, which then formed, 2, you know, assemblies then, in 1962. That is the House of the Senate, the very first bicameral that we had in Kenya, and the House of Representatives. The House of the Senate then had 41 senators. Of course, each district, each had, one from each district, and then 1 Nairobi. Then that's how they formed 41. And then about 117 representatives, with 12 from the specialized, you know, representation. That very thing was challenged later in 1966, you know, after it was more or less like a quasi-federal kind of governance, because then we did not have county governments. Although the formation, actually it was so much pushed by the opposition then, which was KADU, because they felt the other smaller tribes are not being represented, you know, and that is why they wanted to have a Senate. Then, of course, just as our political nature in this country, it didn't start yesterday, it started then, those very years. It was challenged, and I think the ruling party felt very uncomfortable. They branded them all sorts of names, and it had to be abolished through a constitutional review in 1966. Then, of course, we reverted back to our formation of a unicameral government, which proceeded, and by God's grace, honorable members, in 1970, that is the very first time we got our first African speaker of the unicameral government. So there are other things that have happened. Of course, ladies who are here, you first joined parliament in 1970 by a gracious lady, Grace Onyango, followed, of course, by people like Julia Ojiambo later, Philomena, you know, Chepkoech later. And years back, years passed all through until now 2010, when again Kenyans were given an opportunity to form or rather to change government. Now, in 2010, when Kenyans were given an opportunity to change government, to change the constitution, they opted to have a bicameral government. Now, with a structure of a devolved, a blend of a devolved units and then a bicameral parliament. And the Senate formation had a different history, or rather reasoning of formation, than what we had in the 1962. Because then it was about the smaller tribes. This one was to manage, or rather to do bills that relate to the county governments, the Senate that we're having so far. And the national government, of course, was a house that is set for people's representation and making laws. And so Parliament generally was formed and enacted as provided for under Article 93 of the Constitution of Kenya, which of course recognizes the two assemblies, the National Assembly and the Senate. Now, the formations of those two assemblies set clear the two distinct roles. And copying from the federal systems like the United States of America, we've got the county governments in this country. And the Senate has got exclusive, some exclusive jurisdictions, and so does the National Assembly. There are things that the Senate can do in concurrence, of course, with the National Assembly, and there are things that the National Assembly enjoy exclusively without the concurrence of the Senate. Although, since the formation of the two assemblies, of course, we've had issues. There are other things. Sometimes the Senate feels, we bypass their responsibilities on matters, county bills, and then, of course, there is one landmark that they went to court, I think there in 2019, thereabout, where they went to court under petition number 284 and 353, sibling rivalry, and they went to court and challenged 23 acts of parliament that were passed by the National Assembly. And the learned judges, Justice Anthony Ndongo, sitting together with Jairus,
Council of the Law Society of Kenya, 1989 to 1999. And a founding member and a council member of the East African Law Society from 1996 to the year 2000. The honorable member has in the past served as the chairman of the board of Ramogi Institute of Advanced Technology, chairman of West Kenya Law Society. He holds a bachelor's degree from the University of Nairobi and a postgraduate diploma from the Kenya School of Law. He has his other passions. For those who will be interested, he loves traveling, they say, and he loves giving free service pro bono. So if you have issues with your representation in the courts, this guy He does offer quite a bit of pro bono. Honorable Olago Aluoch. Welcome. I'm told he owns an island. Oh my God. Proceed. I don't know how big that island is. Could be an acre.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to be back again with you and seeing so many familiar faces. Take a short time to forget these things. I was saying, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here back again with you and seeing so many familiar faces. I think this is really where I belong. But for now, I can tell you I'm enjoying my newfound freedom. I think Honorable Malwa has wrapped it all up, but I want to spend a few minutes to talk about the practical challenges that lie ahead of a legislator who wants to be effective. Challenges that I have had to go through myself in the course of being a member of parliament, and challenges which I think those who are serving their first terms will certainly come across. I think one of them is the issue that was being discussed as I arrived here this morning in the previous session, and that is the relationship between the Senate and the National Assembly. I heard Honorable Elachi say that maybe the word mediation between the two houses is not clear enough. I don't think it is mediation. I don't think it is legislation that is lacking. One thing through my career as a member of parliament that I noticed, and which consistently has not been addressed, is instilling in members of parliament skills in conflict resolution. It is lacking completely. In inductions for new MPs, that issue is addressed very lightly. And because it's addressed lightly, we end up in this situation, and I'm going to use rather unflattering words, where members of parliament resort to booing each other on the floor, insulting each other on the floor, sometimes walking out. It pains me when I see members of parliament doing that. Why? Because I can see clearly what is lacking is the ability to discuss with a colleague what you think you are differing on. When members of parliament walk out because you are not happy with the CS for Treasury, what are you demonstrating? You are demonstrating to the rest of Kenya that you lack the capacity to deal with that CS. You are behaving exactly the way a Kenyan behaves on the streets. When that Kenya has given you the responsibility to sort out those problems. So those who are in the House leadership now, I urge you, please look at how you can instill in members skills in conflict resolution so that we reduce the ability to insult each other, to boo each other, or even to walk out. That's one of the challenges that we have. I think the other challenge that we come across all the time is an issue that Honorable Chris Wamalo handled a little earlier. How do you balance your activities on the floor of the House, in committees, and in the constituency? That's a very difficult issue. It is very, very difficult. How many of us in this room know colleagues who hardly spend 5 minutes sitting in the chamber, but they get re-elected and re-elected? How many of us here know those of us who find their seats so hot they can hardly sit, they are always standing and talking, but they serve 1 term, maximum 2 terms, no more? Who knew that Honorable Chris Wamalo here would not come back as governor of Trans Nzoia? Because he was a very effective legislator, a very effective debater. So what do our constituents expect of us? Think for a moment, because Kisumu West, my constituency, cannot be the same as somewhere in Tanariva. They're different. Each constituency is peculiar, it's different from the other. Their constituents, JK, comes from Nairobi. And I'm sure most of his constituents have access to social media, even mainstream media. Out in the north, constituents may not even have access to social media. So they depend on how often they see you and how you relate to their day-to-day activities. So really that balance is important. Once I had a long discussion with now Senator Mungatana in the 10th Parliament, and we were talking about what we need to do so that we can be effective as legislators in Parliament, and at the same time, be effective representatives of our constituents. We didn't reach a consensus because his constituency in Garsen and mine in Kisumu were completely different. So that is a challenge that I think, ladies and gentlemen, honorable members, you must have to address. How much time to spend in plenary, in committees, and with your constituents. The other one is how, if you're going to be an effective legislator and have success, then how do you handle your supporters? I think here Kenya is not different from the rest of the world. You get elected, and in 2 months, those who are staunch supporters are the ones who are saying how bad you are. Is it because expectations are so high and you're not able to meet them? There are those who are supporting you during your campaigns who expect instant results. Maybe they want to be given jobs, they want other opportunities which you're not able to give. But again, a lot depends on the promises that you gave when you are campaigning. If you gave lofty promises, it becomes impossible to fulfill, then I think take the responsibility for it. I look back during my period as a member of Parliament, and now out of Parliament, and I don't regret. I feel satisfied. I did what I could, and now I do something else. And I would like that to happen. Many of you are doing second terms and third terms here are familiar with the faces of former MPs that you see day in, day out in Parliament. They come in the morning as if they're coming to work. They stay in the evening and they go home when you go home. But in the course of the day, when they bump into you and they know you, they want fare or they want lunch. Do you look at that situation and say, God, please don't let me get to that level when I leave Parliament? Many of you came here as professionals and business people, even maybe moneyed. But now you look at your bank balances and you say you are now poorer. Why is that? Do you do simple mathematics? How much money you are spending from your own resources? How much you are getting from Parliament? Is it commensurate? You may not realize it, but you are drawing yourself into a hole slowly, slowly, slowly. And one day when you get out of Parliament, you'll be one of the poorest Kenyans. How do you ensure yourself against that situation? Lastly, ladies and gentlemen, here we are looking at challenges. Parliament takes time, PSC takes time for us to look at these practical experiences together. Something that again PSC has to address from my experience is this. Towards the end of the term of Parliament, there should be a program like what we have at the start of the term, when you are inducted and we have these post-election seminars. We also must have post-Parliament seminars. How do you live after Parliament? I'm trying to go through that myself. And I think I'm looking back at my experience and what I've been able to do and what I'm doing now, I feel satisfied. But I don't think all of us will be that fortunate. I heard you. So I think PSC must have come with a program that members of Parliament towards the end, you are talked to with those who know how to handle pensions, those who know how to handle life after retirement. Because otherwise, you leave Parliament, and in 2-3 years, you are dead. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening to me.
Yeah, let's wrap up this session with questions. I will start with that's Honorable who? No. Honorable Mutunga. Honorable Mutunga, the gracious lady. Honorable who? Oh, Donya. Oh, that name cannot be, I can't miss that. I can, oh, Mule. Mulu Makali, you don't have to stand. You and then the honorable member also is a bit dark, and also I'm a bit short. Ward Chief. So let's start with Mutunga, quickly. I'll come back to you. And Esther Pasaris.
Thank you very much, presenters. We are very grateful. 2 questions. Number 1, can a bill move from an individual person's bill to either a party bill or a government-sponsored bill? Is there a flexibility for transition?
Yes.
Now, the other one is, when you look at what happens in the House, we set the timelines, or rather the amount of time one will spend on the floor. You realize that, for instance, the leader of majority takes 30 minutes, the leader of minority takes 30 minutes, and so on and so forth. At the end of the day, we end up having a House where the leaders speak. Because you wait for 3 hours to get an opportunity to speak. How can we massage this to allow people to speak in that House?
Okay, Madam Donya.
Thank you very much. Mheshimiwa was talking about our roles as members of parliament and the expectations of the people. Like now, our electorate, they don't understand about legislation, oversight, and representation. What they want is quick actions. Like now in Kisii, members, I don't know if you've seen this video of boys doing. Now, they are telling me that, Donya, you must fire those teachers. They don't know that that is the responsibility of Teacher Service Commission and maybe the Minister for Education. Now, as a member of parliament, surely, the expectations of our people are more than what we can offer to them. So I was even asking members, can we do a press conference of this thing of boys doing, so that at least our people can know that, because the Minister of Education has said he will take an action after those teachers have been found guilty. But everything is seen in the video. What has to be investigated? Thank you very much.
Yes. The Honorable Dr. Mulu Makali.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to appreciate the 2 presenters and confirm that those 2 gentlemen, the honorable members, we served them in Parliament for some time, and actually they were effective members of Parliament, even though now they are out. I just wanted to ask one question, and this goes to Honorable Amalwa. The issue of the presidential answer to bills. The burden of raising the 2/3 is pushed to members of parliament or to the parliament as a house. I would want to hear whether there is a situation where that burden of raising the 2/3 could be pushed to the president. Because I think with the nature of our politics, where party politics dominates the whole issue, then it will be very difficult to get members raising 2/3, more so if we have been whipped by your party. So in that case, this is a situation where then the president becomes the lawmaker and not members of parliament. I think that's where the issue is. If you look at the constitution, issue of lawmaking is a parliamentary responsibility, not an executive responsibility. But by the fact that we are required to raise 2/3, then actually in indirect way or through the back door, the president becomes like the lawmaker. I would want to hear your opinion on that. Thank you.
Honorable, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I want to say thank you to the presenters. Very eloquent kudos. Now, we have just agreed we are the upper house. To him, more, which is more is given, more is expected. I really wanted a practical steps where we can bring decency and decorum to our house, especially when there are conflicting issues. Sometimes kids come there and check. Our proceedings are televised, watched in rooms, in sitting rooms and all that, and the way sometimes we behave really doesn't measure up to what we say we are. So what are the practical steps that can be taken so that we can gain that decency?
The woman rep from Wajir. Please rush the, okay.
Thank you, the session chair. Thanks to the both presenters. Indeed, it's a good presentation. Mine goes to the Honorable Waumalo. You have emphasized a lot on the new members. And we are glad that at least you have told us a lot. We have issues in the house. The new members cannot speak the way they want. We might take maybe 4 or 5 days for someone to get to speak. What can you say about that? To the leadership of the house, maybe all of them are here. It's about the induction. You said even those, there's a quote you said about even those who are experienced were once, I missed that, were once beginners. Thank you. When we do such an induction, it's a good thing, yes, but somehow you get people who are experienced and those who are beginners are mixed together. And even here, from yesterday, those who are asking questions are those who are experienced. I'm actually asking the session chairs to give the beginners a chance so that we can ask questions. We can also inject new blood to the house. Thank you so much.
I will take one last one from that side. Yes, honorable member, and then we will wrap up this with the answers, with the responses.
Okay, thank you.
We have a few more very fascinating and very interesting presentations. I actually want to announce that we'll have the emerging issues in national, regional, and global security by none other than the Inspector General and the Director of Intelligence, NSI. So let's wrap up this as fast as we can.
My name is Biego Paul, Member of Parliament, Chesume constituency in Nandi County. My question goes to Chris, and thank you so much for the presentation. And what I'm wondering is the issues to do with training. We come for induction, and it is so fast, things move so fast. What I'm wondering is that you said that Moroto was a very good trainer and helped you. I don't know if there's a way that you can tag new members on senior or ranking or second-term members for that particular training. Because if you don't get a friend, then you will be in trouble. Or if you get a friend who is so fast like KJ, he may be far away, you may not get to know what he's talking about. So it would be very important to tag a ranking member to a new member. And then, yeah, training. Twinning. Oh, thank you. Twinning, you see those terminologies. Thank you so much. And then my suggestion again, or my question would be to Olago Olwatch. I would ask now, in Parliament, because when you want bills to move from the different stages, is it seamless or you'll have to be doing follow-up? Is it the normal way of trying to push, you go find out where your bill has figured, or what are you supposed to do? Especially as a new member, you may not know all those offices and you may not know who is important at what stage. So once you just give out your proposal or your issue, is it just going to be seamless? Otherwise, there would be more to ask, but let me stop there. Thank you so much.
The honorable member, please. Dr. Mwiti. Okay, you'll be the last one, don't worry.
Thank you very much for the fantastic presentation. My question is to Dr. Chris Omarwa, who happened to be also my teacher. Chris Omarwa, you have given a presentation relating more on effective to deliver the desired goals. However, Dr. Chris, you have not emphasized on the issues whereby the MPs face challenges on the expectations by the electorate. Take, for example, we are undergoing a serious problem with the NGCDF. We had looked upon to get the proper funding so that the manifesto or the work plan that we had prepared or promised the electorate, we are able to deliver the desired goal. So how can we achieve our desired goals without the resources to meet those desired resources? Thank you very much.
Honorable member.
Thank you, Speaker, for the opportunity, and thank you very much, the presenters, for those exciting presentations. My point is on an issue that Honorable Omarwa raised. I think it's a germane point that at the point the mover is replying, it kind of, in most cases, the rush over moving instead of taking into account the comments, the suggestions, and all those proposals made by the members. How do we cure that? Is it to be cured at the point the mover is replying so that the speaker reminds the mover, or is something that can be dealt with under the standing orders? Thank you.
The Honorable Jen Kiara, and then finally, quite a bit of agenda in yeah, okay.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Mheshimiwa Nyele Nyeupe.
I wish to thank the presenters because somehow now people know the seriousness of being in Parliament. And this was Kibaki's principle. In fact, if you are in Kibaki's office in State House and it is Parliament time, he will tell you to go. Go to the Parliament, that is where you're supposed to be. And when he chaired the PAC, when he was the official leader of opposition, he chaired every meeting as opposed to Uhuru, because Uhuru's vice became the de facto chair because he was never there. Only that, Honorable Lago, you didn't tell us how we are going to fill this hole that we are digging. Thank you.
Mheshimiwa, introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you.
Introduce yourself so that we...
My name is Rendikiri Mugambi, Member of Parliament for Bori. I'm serving my second term. Please, we were with you. You are one of the person that mentored me specifically. But one of the things that I observed throughout the last 5 years was where the House leadership together throws time is up. That has been a major problem. And when you're saying that we lash out and come back, the greatest problem is that people are not given opportunity. For example, when the mover says seconding, you are only told to say, I second. and it's proclaimed loudly. Please say, I second, and you sit down. The seconder is not even getting an opportunity to speak because the proposer or the mover has spoken. And he calls your name and tell you, Mr. Indikeli, you are going to second. So my business, because of being lashed by the speaker and the House leadership, I only say I second. So I have not given an opportunity to contribute to the matter. I think, to me, Mr. Chairman, one of the problems that we are having is not us members, it's also the leadership is seeking the opportunity of the new members to contribute. So we are killing ourselves on one side and pretending to be doing the right business for the members. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Parashina, and then Omboko last.
Thank you, Speaker. My first question goes to Honorable Lodge. Lodge, yes. As about the issue about the skills, which kind of skills or strategy do we apply on what is going in the House? Most likely when we're in the Parliament, we see there's a lot of, I don't want to say sabotage, but the way the senior status or the leadership, they take us as first-timers. We agree that we are first-timers, they give us certain names. But even if you go to the Bible, I'm sure the Bible or other doctrines, Timothy was able to learn from the Apostle Paul by going feet by feet. So I don't know which skill can I apply or learn when them themselves are not taking us as members of Parliament or who need to learn and understand. The second question goes to Honorable Wamalwa and the issue of communication. We get a lot of pressure, as far as time or me, I can speak on myself, on how to manage the Parliament, issues of Parliament, and how to deal with our societies back there, our electorates. They have a lot of pressure. I think yesterday someone told me you'll become blind, because every time you have messages, phones, and everything. So I need to see, to be an effective, how can you help us on the issue of something to do with communication, because you have been there before. Thank you.
The Honorable Omboko, and then the very last one, the MP for Kisumu.
I find this necessary, Chair, that I speak on this, and I would want Chris to make some comments on this. That the expectations of a new member of Parliament are very high, especially when it comes to speaking on the floor of the House. And when I arrived in Parliament, I had my challenges with Speaker Muturi. You remember many times him shutting me down. But now I'm in the Speaker's panel, and I thought this should be shared so that we are able to see how we shall be working. We have a total number of pick. You have to consider many other aspects, including the subject matter, the leadership of the House, which are certainly preferred when it comes to speaking. There's the issue of expertise, and then there's the issue of even the committee chair of that particular topic, leadership, regional balance, and even gender, among others. So people with disability and so on and so forth. So you find that members may feel like they're being left out. Yet by towards 5, 6, and you know very well, there'll be no members of Parliament in the House, and you'll be even looking around for people to speak, and sometimes you have to wound the House early. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, the Honourable Member of Parliament for Kisumu, and Tonkei, last one.
Thank
Very
you.
last one.
Thank you.
Order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order, Mheshimiwa. Order. At least you accept the decorum of the House. Keep on raising your hand, but sit down. Sit down. Parliament has got certain discipline also. It's not a marketplace. Order. The Speaker has the discretion. If you keep on raising your hand, you will catch the eyes of the Speaker, the eye of the Speaker. But don't behave like it's a school or okay, proceed.
Mr. Speaker, my rightful names are the Honorable Elisha Diambo, the MP for game. I think I'd pass my accolades to my two former colleagues for having taken us through this session. But what boils to my mind, the Honorable Chris Wamalwa, you spoke about the desired outcome or the intended outcome. I believe, like the first-term members of parliament, what they get at the constituency is as is constituency. Once they redefine their strategic plan, then you can talk about a to-be constituency. So there's an interface between as is and the to-be, which is the desired state of that constituency. But more importantly, you spoke to effectiveness. What is the variance, the correlation between effectiveness and efficacy in terms of achieving results? Thank you.
The Honorable Member Tonkei. Oh.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Rebecca Tonkei, the county MP. Order.
Order.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, he's interfering, and the Chair is protecting me. My name is Rebecca Tonkei, the county MP Narok. I want to thank the honorable members, Chris and Olago, for the good presentations. No, they were, I'm well known to them because they were my bosses when I was working in Parliament. And clearly, Honorable Olago, you're looking good. Honorable members, when we look at what the points that are being raised, there is an issue with the newcomers. I'm one of them. And this needs to be addressed, and most preferably, we will need another session, an induction for the new members, because we feel that this is just not enough for us. You've spoken, Honorable Olago, about the expectations. There is a lot that is expected of us back at our counties or our constituencies. What is that one thing that you'll tell us as new members that kept the electorate of Kisumu electing you each and every time, even when you stood on an independent ticket? Thank you.
The Honorable Member in the middle there. Proceed, the Honorable Member who was getting agitated. Yeah, proceed.
Yes, thank you. My name is Titus Lote, the MP for Kacheliba.
Kacheliba.
Yes. I actually had a lot of questions to ask, but I have this concern. And this concern actually goes to the presentation that has been done by Honorable Chris Wamalwa. In terms of how the first-timers are treated. And I know decorum is a two-way. Decorum from the leadership and also decorum from the House. Because this is not the first time. In the House, we've complained. And I think this has been said by first-timers. You raise your hand, you have a point, you cannot say it because you are a first-timer, your name is not known, you do not have any credit to speak. And I say this because I kept raising my hand from the word go. And this is what happens. It is not a mistake by you, but it's a mistake by every leader that sits in the chair that you sit. You jump the newcomers. And the newcomers will not learn, they will not ask questions. The people that will ask questions are the people that have always been there. And I don't know why in a session like this, you give the people that have been in Parliament to ask the same questions they asked last year and last term. Please allow the new members to ask questions, not the people that have been there. We are not here for competition, we are here to learn. In fact, the question I wanted to ask is gone because I'm agitated. Chris, I will ask you when we meet at home. Thank you.
Order, honorable members, honorable member, honorable MP for Kacheliba. For your information, I have not been in the last two parliaments. I have a difficulty understanding who came now and who was there in the last term. So order. The chair is talking. The very basic rule you have to, first of all, is that when the chair is talking, you freeze where you are. So learn the rules, for God's sake. Now, but what we have done, I do agree with you, and I appreciate your concerns. Order. And I appreciate your concerns. I appreciate your concerns. There are many ways to catch the speaker's eye. You could slowly slip into the chair and say, Mr. Speaker, I'm a first-timer, I'm the MP for so-and-so, I want to speak. The speaker will always, whoever is on the chair, will give consideration to the first-timers. The other bit is that I don't know how the rules have changed, but a seconder, during my time, had time. Actually, we used to have, I think, about half an hour, 40 minutes or 10 minutes for the mover, and another 20 minutes or so for the seconder. If the rules have changed, I don't know, but I'm going to revise the standing orders again. But now, could you proceed, please, and ask your question? You also realize that all 300 of you cannot ask a question every time at the same time. Yeah. So let's also be conscious of the time. And the very interesting presentations that are going to be done by two officers who hardly come to our meetings because of the nature of their work. And I'm sure you'll find it very fascinating, interrogating the IG, Inspector General, and the Director of National Security. Proceed. Proceed, Honorable Member for Nyeri.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Duncan Maina Madenge, first-time MP, Nyeri Town constituency.
Town,
yeah. I wish to pick just a bit for the two panelists and the comment by the Honorable Oboko Mirema in terms of the balancing that the chair needs to do. I think on that list of considerations, there should be inserted the consideration for first-time members of parliament, so that maybe in a particular session, we have at least a reserved number of slots that must contribute. Then in that way, you'll have the House, the leadership of the House, will have contributed to our being effective members in the House. The second element is this popular phrase that seems to always come from one corner of the assembly: pull the question. And most of those times, in fact, most of the first-timers seem to have approached the chair for consideration. That element of cutting out debate even before the time allotted for debate to be concluded should be reconsidered by the leadership of the chair in terms of contributing to effectiveness. Lastly, the two eminent gentlemen have told us about effectiveness on the floor of the House. But there is the other level of effectiveness in terms of the people who elected us, in terms of our contact with the electorate, and considering that you have been quite active on the floor of the House, but there seems this time round to have been a disconnect that now you are advising us from the other side of the House. What is it would you contribute? What is it that you missed in terms of the engagement with the electorate that could benefit us?
Now you proceed, and yes, the Honorable Member of Parliament for Banissa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You're the last one, so.
My name is Kulo Malim Hassan, MP Banissa, Mandera County. I want to begin with thanking the two panelists whom I have served in the last parliament with, especially my friend, Dr. Chris. My problem, or my question is, whenever, the last 5 years, whenever an important bill, especially say the bill, the government bill, or an important bill comes to the House, the speakers are predetermined. You will see the speaker giving chance to 7 or up to 10 speakers who have already been predetermined. And I want to say that, Mr. Chris, you could be part of that cartel, because I always see you given the chance to speak.
So how do we tame this leadership against this spice?
Yeah. The honorable member, proceed, council, proceed.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Geshimo Gedenji, MP Geshoko. My question is directed to Honorable Dr. Chris Wamalwa. And I'm inviting your comments on instances whereby a bill requires to be replied to, but at the end of the seconding, someone rises under the provision of Standing Order 95. And it happened in the last parliament. There were interests to contribute to the bill. But someone rose under 95, and that was the end of it. Yet, there were so many members in the House ready to contribute. What is your take on that? Thank you.
Now I can call upon, when the chair, whoever is chairing a session, is conscious of the interest that's there in that, the contributors or many want to contribute, you can always overrule that. Whoever is on the chair is going to gauge the mood of the House. Mood of the House is going to tell you, but as a former Deputy Speaker, I'll tell you now, I don't know whether the rules have changed, but then you can say, no, there's interest, so let the debate proceed, continue. Proceed. Although the provision is there in the standing order.
Thank you, honorable members. I really want to thank you because you've been very active. That means you are listening. You know, when you're in a class, you can tell the class was attentive from asking questions. But if the students don't ask questions, that means they were sleeping. I want to confirm that this is a very active parliament. Now, I want to answer quickly, starting with Honorable Gidinji, the MP for Kishugu. And this is in line with Standing Order 95. Standing Order 95, a member can rise. He can talk of maybe looking at the mood of the House, you call the mover maybe to reply. So the Speaker has no powers, by the way. He can only ask the members. So the Speaker will only be called to put the question. And that's the tradition. When a member has risen and he was asking that the mover to reply just to end the debate, the Speaker is obligated to put the question to the members. It is you members to make a decision. And now that's when you'll say the ayes have it. Or if you don't trust what has happened, you can rise up for the division. So it's also your responsibility, if you want to continue the debate, to mobilize your colleagues. So when the Speaker calls upon that question, the Speaker will go as per what the voting has been done. I think that is the spirit when it comes to standing order. And what Mheshimiwa Gidinji has said is true. And there's no way somebody can come and say the mover to reply and the motion has not been seconded. That's not procedural. Because for a motion to be proper on the floor of the House, it must be moved and it must be seconded. Because when you go to the Hansard and the debate was allowed and yet it was not seconded, it is not procedural. So it is indeed important, whoever will be on the floor, when somebody has called at Standing Order 95, he must put the question, and it's you members to make that decision. Now, quickly, Honorable Honorable Hassan, we used to call him Masharia, I don't know where he is. I want to tell you I was not part of the cartel. And at no time was I given any responsibility. You know, the standing orders are clear that when it comes to speaking, priority is given to the leadership. We have a provision for majority leader and minority leader, okay? You as a member, what I used to do, and this I want to tell you members, you use it. And that's why I say for you to be a good legislator, that commitment. Make sure you go to the House early enough and lock in your card, okay? Lock in your card and monitor it quickly and stay there. Because many members, the problem they have, you come in, you lock, and you go out. No, you must be patient and monitor. That is from my experience. Maybe now it's not working, but I can see the leadership is listening. So one of it, we used to be with the Honorable Maanzo, who is now a senator, okay? So you come quickly, and the Honorable Ombogo, I was also your mentor, you know that. You know what I did, eh? Yes, but you didn't say. Eh? And you are a very good student. I used to sit next to Honorable Ombogo, and he used to consult always. Let me tell you, honorable members, identify some of the seasoned members of parliament and try and sit next to them. Because Honorable Ombogo used to consult. Then when it's standing order 95, he comes and asks, is it the proper time? I mean, yeah. From the mood of the house, I think it's the right time. And in any case, it's you members to make the decision. The speaker cannot decide. He must put that question. So identify one of the ranking members or an active member who is always in the house. When there's a challenge, request that, always consult that ranking member. He'll be able to help you. I remember even Honorable of Funyula, I don't know whether he's here today. That MP, we used to sit next to him, and always in the committee of the whole house. As one of the starting members of parliament, he never used to miss. Honorable Dr. Oundo there, he used to be there. So if you want to learn more, you must be there, and there must be that patience. And we used to consult each other. So identify some of the good legislators, consult where there's an issue. But now, there are interesting things which have been raised here. I don't know, there's not much time as such, but I'll try as quick as possible. Whatever I don't touch, Honorable Olago Lodge will be able to say that. Honorable Rebecca of Narok, I can see the issue of the new members of parliament. It's a critical issue. It is important that the House Business Committee or the Committee of Procedure, at that time, I don't know whether TJ is here, I've not seen him. He used to do very well in the procedure. Yes. Absolutely. So like some of the things you've mentioned here, you can be able to put them in the standing orders, and the Committee of Procedure can be able to bring those issues to be addressed there. And I remember a time when you used to have issues. TJ Kajuang at one time he used to be the one chairing that committee on procedure. Please go and put your proposal there so that it can be part and parcel of the standing orders. Another issue was Honorable Member for GAME. You know GAME, we are told, is a place for very good scholars. And he talked of efficiency and efficacy. You know, English, effectiveness is about getting the desired results. When you talk of efficacy, efficacy mostly is used when it comes to how drugs manage patients. So efficacy is the same as efficiency. Actually, that's the synonym. So when you talk of effectiveness and efficacy, it's like saying effectiveness and efficiency. And I want to agree with you. The two words have been used simultaneously. When you talk of effectiveness, it's about getting the desired results irrespective of the cost implication. But when it comes to efficiency or efficacy, you are bringing in the element of the cost aspect to eliminate the issues of wastages. So those are some of the terminologies in most cases have been being used interchangeably. And one member mentioned about the constituency. Honorable members, I mentioned Honorable Moroto. I want to recognize Moroto because Honorable Moroto, when I came to Parliament, he's the one who oriented me around. He might not talk much on the floor of the House, but when it comes to his constituency, I did many fundraising in his constituency. I remember Honorable Midiwo, and we were from different political divides. And you as honorable members who are here today, let me tell you one secret. You must work across the political divide. There are many times we used to go to Kapenguria for purposes of doing harambe for this Honorable Moroto. And people used to wonder. I used to be with Honorable Midiwo. We were in the opposition. Honorable Moroto was in government. But every time, when there's a harambe or an issue in his constituency, he could invite people across the political divide. This also helps in the healing of this nation. And Honorable Moroto, when you go to his constituency, he focused heavily on what the constituents want. So for you, honorable members, one of the key success factor is for you to come back. And research has shown that coming back as a second member of parliament is more difficult than coming in as the first member of parliament. I hope you know that. And when you come in for the second, it's easier to come in for the third. So you can get experiences from Honorable Moroto, but my advice to you is listen to your electorates. The electorate is the one that will vote you back. But if you don't speak in parliament, even if you do some good things, watasema, huyu mheshimiwa hata hatujawahi kumsikia akiongea kwa bunge. So when it comes to value proposition of your constituency, it is ever changing. So there must be that delicate balance. You must be in parliament to legislate. I'm imagining cattle rustling in wherever you come from. The people will ask you, what have you done in parliament about this menace of cattle rustling? Honorable Matia, I don't know whether Honorable Matia of Yala, she's here. You see now the electorate will not wait for you to say, we want to have arms with guns. Okay? They'll want to know, what have you done the time you've been in parliament on the issue of cattle rustling? For instance, you can bring a motion of adjournment to discuss that matter. It is critical. That's what we used to do. Yes, exactly. So you can rise up as the speaker, motion of adjournment to house the leave of the house, so that you discuss a matter of national importance. And the standing orders are clear. You must have, is it minimum of 30 MPs to rise and support? So by doing that, they'll see you are doing something as far as the issues of cattle rustling are concerned. Oh, time, eh? Okay. You know, they asked many questions, so let me conclude, honorable members. Honorable Jen Kihara, MP for Naivasha. It is true. Kibaki's time, and it's been quoted elsewhere. Even the time the ministers are supposed to go to answer questions, even if they were having cabinet, President Kibaki used to say that please, let's finish our meetings so that you go to parliament to answer the questions. And that was the time under the parliamentary system where there was question time. Now it's presidential system, we don't have question time. But I'm aware you are looking for a way through the standing orders so that the cabinet secretaries can come to the house to answer questions. And that will be a good opportunity for you, honorable members, to address the issue of oversight and the issue of representation. Because the minister will come on the floor of the house on matters of the roads. You will be able to question that. What plans has the government put in place in terms of making roads, let's say in Kwanza constituency? You have that opportunity. So once you finalize on the standing orders and the question time is there, when you go to the UK, in the House of Commons, you'll see question time. All members of parliament are there, they don't have any sitting space. Because that's the time you can represent your constituency. Issues of electricity, issues of roads, issues of cattle rustling, the minister will come there and you'll ask him direct questions for him to answer. So when that time comes, I think it's going to cure a lot as far as representation is concerned and as far as oversight is concerned. Honorable Mugambi, on House leadership, you mentioned about this issue. I think the members of the speakers panel are here. You've heard the concerns of the new members. It is important you develop a framework on how do you do it so that these new members can also be given an opportunity to speak, isn't it? So I think the members have heard, and I think that's going to be worked out. On the issue of CDF, let me mention something on CDF. Before I came to Parliament, I had an opportunity as a consultant. We were with Engineer Karue. Engineer Karue is the one who originated, who brought this issue of the CDF, okay? And it was a World Bank project, and I was one of the consultants with Engineer Karue. And even when you look at our recommendations, when you go to the CDF board, we recommended that CDF, the percentage should go up from 2.5 to at least 5%. Right now, in every constituency you go to, the most popular brand name that adds value to the constituency is the CDF. And I want to salute you, honorable members. CDF should not be allowed to go. This is the time it should be enacted in the Constitution. You know, Martin Luther King Jr. said this, that we must learn to live together as brothers or we perish together as fools. And I'm happy the teamwork you put across when it comes to matters of CDF. CDF should never go. You go to some areas, they've not heard even about the funds from the counties. It's only that CDF is there. So, honorable members, please, by now you should have put a law in place to amend so that CDF can be incorporated in the constitution, not in the statute law. Are we together? Tuko pamoja? So I want to wind up so that Mheshimiwa can be able to come and continue. Honorable Mboko, thank you for your concern. I think time is gone. So let's allow Honorable Olago Watch also to come and say something. Thank you very much, and may God bless you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are running out of time, so I'll take only a few minutes. Honorable Donya talked about what is on video and how your constituents expect you to take the role of TSC. Again, that is to do with the expectations of members, the voters that brought you here. They expect you to be the solution to all problems on earth. And that is why you become the ATM, like they say. You become an undertaker, funeral undertaker when people die, all sorts of things. But then again, I think as time goes, you'll be able to make them understand what you are able to do and what you can't do. Honorable Wina talked about the decency and decorum in the House and what needs to be done. I think that comes back to what I said earlier, skills in conflict resolution. If you're skilled, then issue of decency and decorum should not be an issue. But again, if that's the way you were brought up, the way you were born, there's nothing Parliament can do about it. If you're just indecent and you lack decorum, and that's how you are, Parliament cannot help you. So again, if your constituents think they want somebody who has no decorum, no decency, to come to Parliament on their behalf, that's what they wish, that's what they get. Honorable Kiara said, how do we fill that hole that we are digging ourselves into? By spending much more than we are earning. If you're going to stay alive, you have to find other ways of filling that hole. Sometimes by being dishonest, unfortunately. So when you dig yourself into that hole and you want to come out of it, and there's no way, you may have to resort to being dishonest. That's not the best way to go about it. So in my view, the only thing to do is to avoid digging yourself into any hole in the first place. If that means being called mean, let it be. But getting out of a hole like that will be difficult if you get into it. Yeah. The issue that Honorable Parashina and Honorable Tonke talked about, I think first-timers need time alone for this type of seminar. I do not expect that you put Honorable Tonke in the same session with Honorable Kaluma and that they are equal, because they are not equal. So you need to have a session to yourselves so that some of these issues you are addressing are addressed specifically to yourselves, not when you are mixed. Lastly, Honorable Mathenge said that I and Honorable Wamalwa have been re-elected. Yes. You asked what could have gone wrong this time. Is there a disconnect between us and our electorate that made us not come back to Parliament? I can't talk on behalf of Honorable Wamalwa. I don't know why I didn't come back. But I can talk about myself. There comes a time when you feel you have done the best you can, you have done enough for your constituents and for the country. But you don't want to step down. Because if you do, tomorrow your son or your daughter wants, they will be told, your father was given an opportunity, he ran away from it. You give your family lineage a bad name. So you go into campaigns half-heartedly, so you can say, you rejected me, that's why I'm out of Parliament. And you feel happy about it. If there's anything else I didn't touch, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. God bless you.
Ladies and gentlemen, a big clap for honorable members. Order, the member of parliament for game. You have had your chance. We are listening to other members who are also going to. Honorable members, standing order number 95. I don't want us to get this wrong. Standing order number 95. when somebody rises up after the seconding or whatever it is and says that may the mover be called upon to reply. If in the opinion of the speaker or the person on the chair, that is either frivolous or takes away the rights of other members of the House, then of course the majority is not going to be followed and the speaker is going to overrule. I've just checked it. That's how it was during my time. That's how it still is. 95. I don't know whether, because the one I've just been going through, because you have to understand a House is the right of the majority to have its way and the right of the minority to be heard. You can't take away that. If in the eyes of the speaker, he feels that there's an undue, what do you call, majority, which tries to silence the others. You realize in our country, we changed the constitution in 1 hour. You remember that when we were moving the section 3 in the section 2A? Now, it's important for us to understand the history and also appreciate the right of members of parliament. Honorable members, a big clap for my two friends here. And I'm also inviting the IG and the man from the intelligence to come up in the front here and take over. One more clap again for Olago. And okay, let me first of all start there. IG and the representative of the Director of Intelligence. I want to believe that you must be Mr. Marsa. I've heard the name, but I've never seen you. Is it? This is Marsa. Dr. Saif. Welcome, Dr. Saif. IG comes here on the left side, rather as the important person up here. Please do come here. And where is Honorable Gladys Chalet? Oh, okay. Please come and take over this session. I am very tired.
Honorable members, we now move to our next session, which is the topic is on emerging issues. Honorable members, order. Emerging issues in the national, regional, and global security. And we have the great honor of having Engineer Japheth Kome, EBS, HHC, Inspector General of Police in the Republic of Kenya. We also have a representative who is standing in for Major General Philip Wachira Kameru, Director General for the National Intelligence Service. He's represented by Dr. Saif Muhammad, Director of External Division in the National Intelligence Service. I have a brief profile of Engineer Japheth Kome. Engineer Japheth N. Kome is the Inspector General of the National Police Service and President of the AFRIPOL Assembly. He holds a degree in civil engineering from the University of Nairobi and is a registered engineer by the Engineers Board of Kenya. He previously worked as Commandant of the National Police College. Yeah, we can have a round of applause for that. He previously worked as the Commandant of the National Police College, Main Campus Kiganjo. He was also the Principal Deputy for the Deputy Inspector General, Nairobi City Police Commandant. Director of Planning, Kenya Police Service. He was also the Deputy Director of Planning and instructor in the Kenya Police College, Kiganjo. He has also served as an officer commanding the police division in Machakos, Murang'a, and Nairobi, and officer in charge of the anti-stock theft unit.